All right, so for our chest press exercise, you can start on the ground, you can start on the bench if you want to. One of the advantages of starting on the ground is for one, you can move more weight, but also you can work on developing your low end strength and endurance. So one of the areas,
basically when we look at our muscle fibers, if we were looking at them under a microscope, they look kind of like a DNA helix, and they kind of spiral and whatnot. And when the muscles get shorter, right, they're going to have more bonding points in which they can actually connect to. So you have these contrasting myofibrils that kind of crawl over each other and then grip. And up here, there's going to be more gripping points, right? The more our muscles are contracted, the stronger they are. So when we think about a chest press, right, if I'm coming down to this position, my pectoral muscles, my prime movers here, are being put into a more stretched out position, right? Which means that they're going to be weaker here at the low end. The other thing about that is that the fulcrum is right here, it's my shoulder, right? And the lever comes out here. The further out that dumbbell travels, or barbell or whatever, the more tension is going to be put, more resistance is going to be put into that muscle, right? So what I want to do is I actually want to get to this point and then strengthen for that push. We don't want to go much further past where we'd be on the ground anyways, because that glenohumeral joint, the head of the humerus is going to start moving out of its protective socket, and it's going to become weakened. You're not going to have the same level of muscle energy efficiency in that position, right? It's going to weaken the muscle and make it harder for you to push, and potentially lead to a muscle strain, tenderness, and ligament damage. So, grabbing my dumbbells here. When I'm down here, in order to work on that low end, I want to think about pushing my elbows into the ground. Notice that I'm kind of have my elbows at about a 45-degree angle here out to my sides. And when I finish, I'm going to finish right over my chest, because I've got these stupid little nubs right here. I like to actually go palm in so I can get more range of motion in my chest. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, push into the ground for a second, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. That pushing into the ground by actually disengaging the pec muscles and using auto-reciprocal inhibition, fancy word there for saying that the lats are engaged, therefore the pecs are not. By pushing my elbows into the ground in that, what I do is I disengage and then I'm re-engaging from that low position, which is actually going to help strengthen that low end. So once you've got that down for however many sets you're going to do, or how many ever weeks you're going to do that, you can then move on to the bench, and then you're going to have a lot more control in that low end and then have a lower chance of injury. What you can do from there is you can take a Bosu, if you want, to progress, and then you can put your shoulders up on the Bosu and then hold this position, and that's just going to add a little bit more instability. Then we can grab our physio ball. Now for the physio ball, I like to start with my hips a little bit up off the ground, and then and have my shoulders low enough on the ball so that when I come up, it's just my shoulders that are on the ball, and then I can push from this position. Try to make sure that you are square before you start moving, right? And if you get into trouble, drop down. One thing to note about working on a physio ball is that if my hips start dropping, I move from being in a position of a flat bench press to an incline press. And I'm also losing my stability here. I can feel my feet are trying to slide out from me, the ball's trying to move on me. So really try to keep your hips up the whole time when you're working with the physio ball. Now, as you get more unstable, you're probably going to have to drop weight, because you're going to be using more of those stabilizing muscles in order to get that press, right? So, and to be able to stabilize through that, you're going to find that you're using a lot more energy. One thing that people tend to get wrong when it comes to stability training is that they think that the more advanced you get, the more unstable that you need to go. We are in this phase, we're trying to build up stabilization endurance so that we can push more weight later. So it's actually in the beginning, when we're working with lighter weights, when we're trying to build up endurance more than maximal strength, that we want to start playing with these modes of instability
when we know that we have a certain level of neuromuscular control. If we, you know, start working with these later on, when we're working on, you know, big power movements, or we're working with really, really heavy weights, we're more likely to injure ourselves. But by doing these early on, what we're doing is we're actually teaching the muscles to stabilize better, so that when we get to the more advanced exercises or the heavier weights, we're actually able to stabilize through those movements better, if that makes any sense, right? So we're building that foundational stability so that we can move more weight later on.